Hello, Richard. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me. So let's start the interview then, Richard, with getting to know you a bit as a Quaker. So can you talk us through what was your journey into Quakers? What were you seeking, and what did you find?
I started with Quakers in about 2000, sort of 25 or so years ago. Um, and I came uh, I was in counseling in the retreat. And I think, honestly, that's so the link. So I finished the counseling, and I think I went to another Quaker institution. That's the only thing I can think. But I definitely felt led. So I turned up at the meeting house I'm still at, which is Carlton Hill, and I just walked through the front door on a midweek, and I've been going ever since. So something was right from the off, and I know a lot of people say they went in and they felt at home, and that was very much my experience as well. But I was definitely searching. I was searching for a. I think it was a, a faith search. So it was searching for or to decide. So I was very much open. I got very much. So as a gay man, I'm very much a, a what came to the meeting very anti-Christian. Um, and so started my search from there. And I think the reason I turned up at Quakers is at the back of my mind, I knew that my sexuality wouldn't be an issue, or thought it wouldn't be an issue. And so that's why I went there, and actually it suited me down to the ground. So I was allowed, it became obvious to me that it was up to me to search and up to me to find as well. And so it was actually the best place for me. Um, and what happened? What did I find? I found a community which was mystical and prophetic, and for whatever reason, that suited me down to the ground, absolutely down to the ground. Um, so it, so I got involved and with the light groups, with Bible study, which you started up, with extended meeting. So very much a mystical looking or being involved in a mystical, looking for a mystical experience and seeing where that would lead. Um, and in terms of the Christianity, just about now I've come to terms with the fact that perhaps the Bible's got something to say. Um, Now, no, that sounds awful. That's really flippant. But okay, the Bible is far more complex than one or two people's or one or two communities' um, thoughts about it. That it's actually far more powerful and far more complex. Um, so although I was really definite, I'd come to, and also my meeting was definite that I'd come to Carlton Hill as a human being. I couldn't, and my sexuality was separate, and it was really clear from the meeting. That's exactly, and that was a powerful thing that's how they allowed me to see that as well, which was really powerful. But despite that, or because of that, I then became I was sort of brought into the debate within Quakers. So I can remember in pre Britain Yearly meeting 2009, when you were in at Rawdon. Um, so Leeds had sent a minute to to sufferings, or was going to send them in to sufferings. So we were involved with that, and I can remember the the elders meeting. You'd sent a letter, and then I spoke at that, and then from that we got a minute going to sufferings, and then BYM. And so, as a direct result of that, the Quakers came out and said, right, we're going to we're going to facilitate same-sex marriages. So, I that was really powerful. It was my whole experience of that in terms of so I was looking for prophetic and mystical. So it just seemed to slot straight in there. Um, I did get a feeling. It sounds really grandiose, but actually, I was there, and as were you, maybe. Um, we were slotting in as enablers somehow to allow something to happen. We were being used.
Mm.
Um, to allow something to happen. And it still feels like that today. And I keep and for a lot of people that was real keystone. People will remember 2009 in York, and just speaking to other people about that. And apparently, it was not a done deal. It wasn't. They made a decision on the Friday, and it wasn't a done deal. And so actually, I think a difference was made there.
Mm.
So I went. So as a gay man, we had a civil partnership. We had a ceremony at Carlton Hill. So myself and my partner, and so to this day, which again was really powerful. This was pre the marriage being okay within meeting houses, but actually they got around it in a certain way and actually said, right, we're going to support your partnership. So yeah, it feels like sort of 25 years of the meeting becoming integral
Mm.
to my life as a framework.
Yeah.
Um, so now, in terms of, I'm just really aware that I haven't really mentioned anything about God or anything, which
Well,
is
that's what I was going to say. There's so many things I'd like to ask you about here.
yeah.
And as you've said, kind of our Quaker story is actually quite closely kind of entwined to begin with, wasn't it? We were kind of around Leeds at the same time. Take me back then to what I'm interested in, firstly, is what made you think actually there is something intriguing about Quaker meetings or the whole faith tradition. Can you remember something of what it was? You said something about it's because you knew that your sexuality wouldn't be a big issue. Was that the key thing? Or then you said something about you were very much kind of against Christianity at that point. Was it more about that? What was those early attractions for you?
Um, I'd been my only experience of. I think faith was around when I was growing up. I found out recently that my father was going to train as a vicar. Ah, I had no idea. So there was this sort of undercurrent going on, and he turned against it. He turned against the church or against his faith. So there was something there, and although we went to Sunday school, um, but by that time he turned against it. So actually, it was quite negative, and there was positive things going on there. So I'd gone to Sunday school and stopped going, and that was of no particular faith. So it was Methodist, the Methodist Sunday school. But obviously, I think there'd be some sort of seed there, or something was sown, um, but not a so definitely a Christian view.
Mm.
And in retrospect, I don't think you can grow up in England um, and not be unaffected by Christianity. So
Mm.
there's those two things, I think. Um,
Yeah, so
I
tell
think.
us more about
Go on. Sorry.
that notion of I mean, as you say, we both did some of that Bible study, the friendly
Yeah.
Bible study method early on, and we were probably both around that feeling of Christianity is something we've been brought up with, but there's something about it which we're resisting and rebelling against in some way. And we both explored that. So can you talk us through what was your experience with the Bible then? And as you said, what is your view on God? Do you pray? Do you use
Mm.
God language? Do you describe yourself as Christian now? And talk us through that a bit.
Yeah, I think um I think the first eye opener was the it felt, and it came from the Bible. So I felt like, although I hadn't had a enormous Bible upbringing, I knew some of the words, and so some of the experiences. That's the thing. Some of the experiences. So forgiveness, or and so these experiences, which were in the Christian tradition, it felt as if unless I engaged with those, I was actually missing out in a major way. Um, so that seemed to be the first thing. These experiences, or so from a mystical point of view, I think. So actually, I felt as if forgiveness was important, but I wasn't quite sure what. Oh right, no, this is what we're talking about, and also then slotting it into a Christian tradition. So how do you get forgiveness in a Quaker sense if you haven't got a priest or a vicar? Um, and you're going, you are, it's your direct relationship to the divine, um, which again is, is such a powerful thing, and is still something which. So if people, particularly Christians, ask me about Quakerism, and I say it's your direct relationship with the divine, that actually for them it is it's really difficult to get the head round, and almost like a sacrilegious thing. Well, you haven't got somebody in between. So it does feel still to me that Quakerism is quite radical, pretty radical. Um, I think the discipline attracted me. So why was I attracted? I'm pretty certain the only thing it was, and I do feel as if it was led, because I just turned up there on a Wednesday and then started coming on the Sunday for the next 25 years. Actually, and it was exactly the right place. It's not an accident. So I had, but as a result of that, there was no struggle. I'm in the wrong meeting, which a lot of people go through. I'm in the wrong meeting. Oh no, I should be there, or I'm in the wrong church. Da da da. So it didn't feel as if I'd gone through all that, which was a very nice experience. So actually, I could just slot in and just find out where I wanted to be. Um,
Mm.
so that was an extremely nice experience, um, and also that I could battle. So I think we've both had this. So you could actually disagree, and you could actually battle away, and it was no, which is not always the case with other faiths. I mean, it is the case with a lot of faiths, but it's not always the case. In terms of my faith, I think I think I am pretty a deist. So I do believe in an external um, some external force, and more it feels like it's an energy. It's about energy, um, and I definitely think, and I'm very much a universalist. I think that's where I, I frame my faith in a Christian sense, but only because that's what I've been brought up with.
Mm.
Um, but so you definitely universalist, and I think a deist. And what's really interesting me now is Craig Barnett. So his website, the stuff he's talking about, which really seems interesting. So it feels like he's going to be pulling things together
Mm.
there.
Mm. So, so
Um,
what would you say is your relationship with God now then? Do you pray?
no, I will. Well, my prayer is twice a day meditation. So in the morning and at evening. In the evening, it is and worship on a Sunday. It feels like I have become comfortable with my discomfort. So I'm not sure what I'm doing, where I am, who is it, where is it going. It definitely feels mystical. It feels as if it's my connection with the energy or a deity is through my unconscious. Um, so the meditation helps me with that. So actually, it's about communicating. Um, it's about that communication. Um, the only reason I don't say it's prayer, it feels it it feels as if I it's through a glass darkly. Most definitely, I have no idea who it is, where it is, but it's there. It's there.
Mm.
It feels the my it is the basis of my life, I think. So it's a healthy way for me to live.
Mm.
That and in terms of that, it's like a grounding. So it's in the morning, it's in the evening. It's a grounding. So I'm grounded. I suppose just passing myself over to God, um, and and also most definitely the only prayer bit I think is it feels as if it feels more and more as if I can be led, so I can be used.
Mm.
But I've got to. It's up to me to get myself in the right frame of mind, and obviously there's no guarantee of that. I could make it a complete
Yeah,
big zero.
yeah.
Um, but more and more, yeah, it feels led, and so something outside of myself, I suppose. That's
Mm.
the other thing. Um,
So,
but I can do it, and it definitely feels like it's not me, it's through me.
mm.
Uh,
So you were talking earlier about certainly in meetings across Leeds leading up to this minute that was sent to sufferings and then the early meeting process around
mm,
same-sex marriage. And you
yeah,
mentioned something about you remember a process around the elders meeting and that I sent a letter.
yeah,
I I remember sending a letter. I was very, very early in Quakers at that point. I'd only been attending maybe
yeah.
6 months. Um, what do you remember of that process then? Because I don't remember that letter. I
Don't
think
you
I
remember?
remember one thing that I remember saying in it, But what do you remember about that whole process?
So they'd gone. They'd. It started with that the same-sex partners were not recorded. I think in the tabular statement, something like that.
Yes.
So the it was picked up by obviously area meeting. Again, you see, I was really early in Quakers as well. So it'd been picked up by area meeting elders, and then I think because you couldn't go,
No, that's
or
right.
because you sent the letter, you won't remember any of it. So they said to me, Richard, will you come and speak whether about how it feels to be excluded from a wedding? How does it feel? So that's what I spoke about.
Right.
Um, and then and then ministered. A lot of people remember that meeting, and they really ran with it. So they took their, as far as I know, it'd be interesting to find it, but their minute they sent to suffering demanded, they were demanding some
Mm.
action on this or something like that. Um,
Yeah, it's
but
really interesting because
the
I sent the letter, and like I say, I was it's in my first year of being in meeting, so I was very unused to the whole
yeah.
process, really. But what I seem to remember saying was, the civil partnership law has been a massive thing in my personal life in that my partner at the time was Australian and we weren't able to even be in the same country. And the main legal protection that I was really appreciative of was the fact that, we'd heard stories of as people got older, they would be separated as they went into separate care homes. And if somebody ended up in hospital, then the partner wouldn't necessarily be able to go and see the person in hospital. And as well as being able to live in the same country if you had a foreign partner. But I remember thinking, and maybe I don't know if you remember this from the letter. I remember saying that I really value the idea of the partnership being upheld by the community and the meeting, but that I wasn't that bothered about marriage.
Mm,
And I don't know if you remember more about that than I do, but it seemed to me that the marriage thing wasn't as important as the legal protections because,
yeah.
he felt so vulnerable really and such in a precarious position without the legal protection mainly. And then to be supported by the community doesn't need a piece of paper. You need a community
Mm.
willing to support you. So that's how I remember my letter at that time. So that would have been 2000 and I don't know, 5 maybe.
I, no, it's really interesting, and I don't think that was an unusual view. And in fact, my partner exactly the same view. Got no interest in marriage, outdated, da da da, and actually no interest in being married. So why was it did it was it purely to make some sort of political statement? I don't know.
Well, you see, I suppose my view is that thinking especially about where we are now, 20 years later, in terms of gay marriage,
Hmm.
is it that important a thing to
No.
vote for? I mean, for me, the civil partnership was the massive legal
Yeah.
step to make
Yeah.
a massive
Yeah.
difference to our lives in terms of legal protections
Yeah.
for being able to leave a will or to connect with another human being that
Yeah.
you want a lifetime commitment to is
Yeah.
for me it never had to be the same as heterosexual marriage. It never had to be the same, but that's what we ended
Absolutely.
up with. And now, of course, we've ended up in a situation where there's ongoing discussions now around what we've got
Mm.
in terms of,
Mm.
sexual minorities and rights, etc.
Yeah. I think it was I honestly think it was about for me more and more about semantics. It was that actually you could use the word. So I could say, I will often now say my husband, although it's not, he's my civil partner. And girl will say, "Oh, why are you saying that? I'm not my husband." And I said, "Well, it's clear. If I don't know whether you've had the same way. If I say partner, some people will mistake, or make a mistake, or think, oh, it's your business partner or whatever. But actually, if I say husband, there's no two ways. Um, and so I will often use that phrase. Now, is that the only reason? Because really, that's that. That well, no, I mean, I I argued that actually it was in the eyes of God. So I was going right back to early Quakerism, and I suppose um, yeah, no, I believe that. I believe that. So actually, I was saying it's a little bit more radical. Actually, if the minutes ended up being saying that the the that us as an organization are only watching this. So actually, what is seen by God that these two people are joined is between those people and God, and actually all we're doing is watching, and that seemed exactly right and more. Why was it important? So actually, you could frame it in a so for me, initially, I think so I could frame it in a Christian
Mm.
way. That framework was there, and that framework was definite. Um, and then I think what really, really impressed me is that Quakers would say, actually, this framework is here. It's not supported by the Bible or anything,
Mm.
but we're doing it. And I think that was it.
Because, of course,
Uh,
the whole process kicked off for Quakers with 1967 towards a Quaker view of sex.
yeah,
So it had been
yeah,
a long process, hadn't it?
yeah,
And we arrived kind of just as they were
yeah,
beginning to think this might be possible.
yeah,
And of course, the famous phrase, I think, is from George Fox, is saying, "We marry none; it's the Lord's work." And I suppose I
yeah,
really like that idea that if people are brought together in a partnership that is committed and lifelong,
yeah,
then that is something that God has brought about, and
yeah,
Quakers are simply observing and recording that and
yeah,
committing to support that partnership.
yeah.
Because I suppose that the reason why I've really started thinking about this again in the last year or so is I read a lot about nowadays that young people in particular, or all ages actually, are starting to use the word queer instead. And I don't like that. I mean, I'm just old-fashioned, I suppose. I just don't like it. Um, but thinking about, how what do young people think about this whole issue? Because when we were younger, we were, I suppose, there was the lesbian and gay scene were a bit cool, seen as being a bit alternative, a bit radical, a bit, you know, yeah, cool. And nowadays, I just wonder whether there's almost gone too far to the point that I'm hearing a ridiculous sense that young people almost feel a bit boring if they're not queer in some.
Oh, right.
And
If there's no difference.
I just really, I feel that's a real shame, I think it's gone
Yeah,
a little bit crazy in the sense of it only works. I think this whole kind of liberation of lesbian and gay minorities, if you like,
yeah.
if the majority are very comfortable in their heterosexuality. So it
Oh,
just,
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I'm only getting you. You probably have more experience of this. So I'm getting this from my nephews who are 20, and also with a load of, you probably saw it last time we were at Carlton Hill, a load of youngsters have started coming to meeting. Um, and it seems like, I think you're right, that it seems to be that no, there isn't any boundaries, or you don't describe yourself as heterosexual anymore. You just describe yourself as a human being, and then one day, and this fluidity, I can't. I think my trouble is I'm probably the same as you. We were brought up. Does that sound like somebody's granddad? We were. You had to define yourself, perhaps because there was a fight on. So you had to say, right, I am this, therefore I will be on that side.
Yeah.
And if you haven't got those sides, yeah, what happens? It could be really confusing. It could be truly. Talking to my nephews, I had no idea whether my nephews were gay or not or whatever, because it just either it wasn't an issue. I don't know. I don't know. Um, and was it just because they'd been brought up? But it felt like in their secondary school, there there was just this. There was presumably from the teachers that actually you'd have everything, all unisex toilets or da da da. So actually, there was this agenda of freedom somehow. And
Mm.
you're right. So it's now we've got
Because I
sex
just
change,
wonder if we're
all
just
sorts.
continuing to kind of rebel and rebel and rebel, and in
All
the
right.
end, we've got no boundaries and we've got no precautions. And of course, fundamentally, I mean, you've just talked there about unisex toilets. I hate those. I hate those.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure if anything, women on balance hate them more than men do. I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
sure there's
No.
a whole group
It's
of
a
people who love
fact.
them, I suppose. I don't
As
know
a
if you
retired
know.
architect, I can tell you that. No, you're right. That
So what is your view as an architect then
of
on these kinds of unisex changing
UNICEF.
villages and
Well, so we did. So we were doing stuff for the council. So we and it and so I saw you'd go and write unisex toilets, and it's very useful because you just provide one cubicle. But it was the women who didn't want it. And when you pushed and shoved, it was about really visceral things like smells and things like this. So you just thought, oh right, okay. So maybe it's going to be pushed then pulled. I don't know what's going to happen. Um, I would. I'm at a position where I will. I don't know, and I feel like some old bogey when I'm talking to the youngsters. But actually, I would defend their right to do these things, and I'm not sure whether it's. Uh, uh, is it? I don't know. Is there a? I hope there's a liberation coming from it, and that. So there's no. So from our point of view, I hope there's a liberation coming from it. Um, I hope it's not just a load of confusion. That's my worry that everyone they'll all end up just being totally confused and not knowing
well,
what.
I'm thinking back to my 20s, and I just think I just wonder, I mean, I'm sure there is liberation.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with that and don't doubt that. But have we become like an anything goes society across Britain, but within Quakers even, we've become anything goes. Do we have no opinion and no guidance for young
yeah,
people around, well, is a long-term partnership that's committed a better way to live your life and a more happiness inducing, stable way of living
yeah,
life than not? we've seen
I
it
would
in
say
around
yes.
all sorts of things.
Yeah. So from
Um,
experience, yes, a stable, committed relationship is the way for for me. That feels, part of my um part of my Quakerism. It does feel as if good religion is essential to good health or a good life. That's I'm definite about. And yeah, part of that for me is a stable, loving relationship. Yeah. Um,
you mentioned earlier about your relationship being supported by the meeting.
yeah.
Do you feel that sense? Under the care of the meeting is the phrase, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does that a real thing to you? Do you really
Yeah.
feel that support? And what does that look like?
Yeah. It looks like so my partner used to come. See, I said partner. He used to go to Carlton Hill. So they were both known at the one meeting, and then he stopped going. So that makes a difference. A lot of a lot of friends, so shared friends, were from Quakers. So we definitely felt as if we were in the community. We were definitely part of the community.
Mm,
So I think whatever that looked like, being part of their community is the support. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
And it's just taken as an ordinary fact of life.
yeah, yeah. And that was, I mean, I don't know, 20 years ago, that was really powerful.
Mm,
I think that what the thing I get from the younger people at our meeting now is that actually that goes without saying
mm,
that, yeah, I
yeah,
think there's been a seismic shift in attitude.
yeah, I think
Uh,
so. So,
and yeah, it's without saying. So, which does make me feel ancient, but I think it's up to me to catch up with them. Or I do feel like they're teaching me
yeah.
things.
So thinking about the future then, what are your fears or hopes for the future
Mm,
of Quakers? Because these video interviews started from that idea of
yeah,
this conference that I went to in October of the future of Quakers. Um, and you've just talked about, in Leeds, there's a whole load of young people in their 20s just started coming
yeah.
along. And is that a pattern we're seeing across the country? I don't know. But what are your hopes for the future?
I am my hopes and I suppose we're in a nice position that all these youngsters are coming to Carlton Hill. If so, I feel like I'm now passing over to them, and I can see. So, as part of a community, I can see that I've probably same trajectory as yourself. So, over 25 years, that you move in and become um, an older member of the community, and then but it does rely on youngsters coming in, which is happening in
Mm,
Leeds. So now it feels like we're trying to get them involved. So it feels really hopeful, but I'm well aware that we're one of of a one out of seven or however many meetings in Leeds.
mm,
And one of the few that is feeling that. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I'm sort of well aware of that,
And do you
and
have
I think
sense?
I think I mean I said a long time. So it could have been 20 years ago. My assessment was that we'll end up with central hubs, um, and it does feel like that actually it's not feasible to these the all with my architect's hat on, and you look at Leeds Area meeting, and the the majority of the meeting houses are designed for access by horse and cart. You know that so what? Why are we still using them? But that's a real. I don't know. You know, people are using them for all sorts of different reasons.
Yeah.
Uh, Not often logical.
But you
Logical.
think kind of like a network of regional hubs or one meeting house in the town centre, and then maybe a
The
network of home worship groups, that kind of net.
Yeah, could be. And more and more, it felt like we should get some minibuses and
Mm,
just bus people in. You know, that actually the problem was transport, or if the problem was getting people from one place to another.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it does feel like yeah. So what do you do if? And it'd be interesting to know if it does pan out across the rest of the country. Is it that the city centre meetings are thriving and the rest are the outlying ones are struggling?
Yeah.
Suspect that's.
So what
Um,
do you think the next 10 years bodes then for Quakers in general? Do you
I
think
I
this
hope,
process, yeah, go on.
yeah, I hope. Craig's stuff sounds really interesting. So actually, he's seems to be looking at how do you square the circle of days and non-days, which is great because that um, seemed to be the fracture point for British Quakerism. Um, and if we can do that, and if we can, and then solve the problem of geography, I think
Mm.
meeting houses.
And meanwhile,
Um,
you and I are settling down in our dotage now, is it? Is that
I
that's the
know.
direction that
Well,
we're going?
yeah, I know. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? Um, I know. And then you think, because I just keep thinking. So, Carlton Hill now, a lot of the older friends have either died or they're on the way, and I just think, what is this? What they felt 25 years ago? Yeah, and is this what they were talking about? Need to talk to them.
And on it goes. Yeah. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Richard. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Emma.